Welcome back, my friends. Today I'm showing you how to create 3 custom legends for your plots. I'll show you this one here, I will show you that one over here, and I will show you this one here as well. As you can see, the scatter plot is always the same. It shows bill length, flipper length, and the body weight of penguins. So first, let me show you how to create the scatter plot, and then we can tweak the legend. In RStudio, I've already loaded the tidyverse, and then we can have a look at the penguins dataset from the Parma penguins package. That will be the basis for the scatter plot. Here you can see that there are NAs in this dataset. And because I don't want to get a warning every time I draw a plot, let's get rid of all of those missing values. Then we can pass this to ggplot, and on the x-axis we'll have flipper length, on the y-axis we'll have the bill length, and as the fill color we will have the body mass. And finally we add a GM point layer to this. Since I mapped the body mass to the fill color, I need to set shape to 21 because this number stands for filled points. Finally, I will increase the size a little bit. Okay, so this is our basic scatter plot. Let's make this a little bit nicer. The most basic thing any plot should do is have proper labels for the axes, for the color legend, and it needs to have a title. I know, my title is kind of generic. I just wanted to throw something in there because every plot needs to have a title. And then we can make the theme a little bit better and the fonts a little bit larger by using theme minimal and increasing the base size in there. And then we can tweak this theme a tiny bit more via the theme function. The first thing we do here is to move the legend to the top. Right now the legend is kind of ugly and we'll fix that in a second. But still, while we're at it in the theme function, let me make the legend title bold. And I will also get rid of a couple of grid lines. I did that last step because I don't think that we need that many grid lines. I prefer to keep it less cluttered. Next, I'm going to change the color a little bit. Right now we are using the defaults color, and with scale fill distiller, I can change the color palette to something green bluish. By default, the lower values get a darker color and I want to have it the other way around. So I change the direction. And if all of this stuff with scale fill distiller doesn't mean anything to you, you might want to check out another video I have. It's a full video on how to change colors in your ggplot, and right about now there should be a notification popping up that can send you to that video. Check it out if you want. So this is our basic plot. Let us save this into a variable. And now for each legend that we're building, we just have to add more stuff to this variable here. To create our first legend, we will use the guides layer, and then we will target the fill aesthetic because we have set the fill aesthetic in the ggplot layer, so this is also the one that we need to change. Right now we see a color bar in the plot, and the way to make this into a discrete version of that is to use guide color steps. And the moment I execute this code, you can see that we already have a discrete version of our color bar. We have 5 differently colored panels in our legend now. And what we can also do is put our title on the top of the legend. And also we can make the bar a lot wider by changing the bar width to 15 centimeters. Excellent, we've already finished our first legend, and because this was so much fun, let's do another one. But before we do that, let me invite you to hit that like button if you find this video useful. You know the drill, this will help me make better videos and I appreciate your feedback. Now let's get back to the video. The next legends will be a bit more complicated because we draw them manually. So first, what we want to do is to change the theme again and get rid of the current legend altogether. Unfortunately, this means that ggplot won't leave any room on top for a legend. So that is why we need to put some space in there artificially. We do this by adding a margin to the bottom of the title. Next, we need to use an annotate layer where we'll basically use gmtile to draw rectangles. And what this layer needs is to know the coordinates of the center of the tiles. So I want the y coordinates to be a bit higher than 60 because right now the maximum of the y-axis is 60 and I want to be above that. So maybe something like 64. And I want my rectangles to be somewhere between 190 and 210 on the x-axis. And because I don't want to have all of my rectangles directly next to each other, I want to add a little bit of padding between the rectangles. So I will add a padding for each one of those rectangles, which will move the coordinates a bit. Let me explain a little bit how this calculation worked. So this here would be the standard coordinates, by which the coordinates would be next to each other. And then this here is the vector that for each entry adds the same padding on top of the coordinates. But of course for the second rectangle we'll need double the padding, and for the third rectangle we'll need 3 times the padding, and so on. So this is basically why when we add this together we get the x coordinates of rectangles that are equally spaced but also have a little bit of padding between them. And now we need to also set the width of our rectangle. In this case, I just chose 5. And if we plot this, we will notice that we draw rectangles, but the problem is that the coordinate system has changed. Right now, we didn't draw outside of the grid, but the grid simply extended to our coordinate of y equal to 64. We will fix that in a second. For now, let us change the colors of our rectangles first. Currently, they're all the same, so we need to change the fill aesthetic with the colors that ggplot assigned to the points that we see in the scatter plot. And the way to do that is to first remember that we use scale fill distiller. And the colors that are behind this function are the so-called brewer palettes. These can be accessed via the rColorBrewer package. From this package, we use the brewer pal function, which can generate a couple of colors for us. In this case, we need 5 colors from the same palette that we have also chosen in the original plot. Perfect, we found the correct colors here. To be sure, it's always a good idea to compare these colors with the colors from before, and right now they look pretty much the same. You could even take this code here and add this annotation here as well. And then you could compare the colors one by one and it seems to work just fine. So let's get rid of this part here again and continue our work on the second legend. One thing that is missing for these rectangles is their border color, because I want to have a subtle border for them. Alright, these rectangles look great. Now it's time to set our coordinate system to specific y coordinates so that our legend is actually outside of the panel. This means that we're going to use coord Cartesian and set the y limits to go from 30 to 60 like we had before. But now our annotation is not visible because by default, everything that is plotted outside of the panel is cut off. And this is why we need to set clip to off so that we can see our legend. Okay, next we need to label our new legend. And what we need to do for that is to copy this part here and change the annotation a little bit. First up, we can get rid of all the things that were related to the colors and the width of the rectangles. They are not necessary for this new annotation. And of course, you want to have a text annotation here. Now, because we want to create a legend where the labels are between the colored blocks, we don't need 5 labels here, but only 4. So this is why in here we take the same coordinates as before, but we simply choose the first 4 of them. And then of course we need to have only 4 here as well. So these will be the new coordinates for our text labels. Time to put in the actual text labels. Here we do that by creating a vector that has the numbers 3000 to 6000 in it. And once we have that, we can plot this. And we can see that our coordinates are on the same y level as our boxes. So let's move them a little bit below the rectangles by tweaking the y coordinate until the labels are below them. Now all that is left to do is to move our labels horizontally. And here this means that we simply tweak the x coordinates until we're satisfied. +1 didn't do the trick, maybe +2, also not good, maybe +3. Yeah, this looks nice. The third time is always the charm. And then we can tweak the labels a little bit more by changing their size and their boldness. Also, we change the font family to, say, Source Sans Pro. Of course, this requires our plot to use this family in general. So that is why we go to our theme minimal from before and in there set the base family to that family as well. Finally, we can use the same strategy to add a label to our legend because right now, no one has a clue what the colors are supposed to mean. So let's add another text annotation, set the y coordinates to be above the rectangles and change the x coordinate to something which will lead to nice results. Here my spidey senses tell me that this is the value I need, provided that I will use left aligned labels. And once again, I also need to specify an actual label, otherwise we can't see anything. Finally, I tweak the annotation a little bit more by changing its size, making it bold, and using the same font family from before. Now, we kind of don't want to have the same size for the labels and the title of the legend. So maybe let's just decrease this to 5 here. Perfect, our custom legend is finished now. So let's do legend number 3. This one has labels inside the rectangles, but the code is actually pretty similar. We can basically take the code from before and put it into a new code chunk. And in the annotation that gives us the text labels, we have to make only minor changes. So let me put in other labels that read less than 3000, 3000 to 4000, and so on all the way until larger than 6000. Of course, since we have 5 labels now, we can remove this part where we selected only the first coordinates from before. And we don't need to move our labels anymore because they are supposed to be in the middle of the rectangle. Clearly, this requires them to be on the same y coordinates, so let's change this as well. Now let's check out how that looks. It already looks very nice, but maybe you want to make the font size a little bit smaller. Maybe make this into 4.5 here. And also notice that the last thing that we absolutely need to change is the colors of the text label because, for example, the Larger than 6000 label is barely visible because the dark text is not very legible on this dark colored background. So let's assign custom text colors for each label. The first 3 labels can be dark, so let's make them into gray 20. And the last 3 labels should be very light so that they are visible. So let's change them to white. Nice! With that we have finished our 3 custom legends. Let me know if you like them in the comments. And if you want to learn more about ggplot, maybe check out this video next. There you'll learn more about how to change your colors with scale functions. Or maybe if you want to learn a bit about, say, data wrangling, then maybe this video is for you. In there I show you how to clean up Excel files with R. In any case, thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video.